Depths of my soul, feeling the loss of control in the spirit, so colorful. If you feel it, then let's go to a place where you belong. Give you strength to carry on. Open your heart, set your mind at ease. Live your life and you'll be free. We're gonna rise, rise, rise. Keep on rising, rise, rise, rise. Rise, rise, keep on rising, rise,
Good evening, everybody, and a massive Merry Christmas from all of us here at the Toon Review. Thank you for tuning in on this Christmas night. I hope you've had a wonderful day with family and friends, or if you haven't, just enjoying the day anyway. We are here for the next hour to have a look at tomorrow's huge game against Nottingham Forest. Suddenly it's turned into a huge game because of the away form, of course, but we'll discuss that as we go on. As usual, if you do enjoy tonight's show, please do give it the thumbs up, guys. Very important to the channel. We keep those coming in. And if you're new, why not subscribe? Hit that bottom right-hand corner, hit the logo, and then hit subscribe and come and be part of an incredible community. You can become a member of the Toon Review, as usual, by hitting the join button just underneath main stato. And, of course, you can donate to the channel if you do so wish by hitting that $sign underneath the live chat, and that will guarantee your comment will be read out on the show. Good evening, Alex.
Hello, how are we doing?
We are doing all right. A heavy head at the moment for you. Lots of ale and pleasantries drank over the last few days.
Yeah, we've got lots of family round and had a works too. You know, it is what it is. I'm sure everybody's in the same boat.
Absolutely. But the football goes on, of course, and a huge game tomorrow. Kicking off, of course, we've got the early kickoff tomorrow at 12:30. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of sore heads heading up to St James's Park for the early one. But it's a game that we really need to, get back to basics and start getting the points on the board again.
Yeah, we do, because the Luton result was unacceptable. It wasn't good enough. And I mean, it's not an issue at the moment. We're on 29 points in 7th. We're still within touching distance of exactly where we need to be. However, we do need to stop it soon. It's like a wound that if you don't sort of stop the flow, it's going to be an issue if we don't sort it out. So it's not an issue yet. We again, probably in the next couple of games, it's not. I don't think it's as dramatic as some people are saying. But if we get sort of halfway towards, or maybe close towards the end of January, and we've still not sorted this out in terms of the away form, and we've not started to pick up more points, it is going to be really tough to stay with the pack, because we're there now, but just so we can't let that get any further.
Well, of course, this is your first appearance back on the channel since that game against Luton. I mean, it certainly didn't go as well as what me and you predicted. Billy turned out to be correct and worried about it. I mean, that performance was poor, wasn't it? I mean, even that 11 that we had on the pitch should have been good enough to beat Luton. And I don't know what it is about being away from home, Alex, but it's just not clicking at the minute, is it?
No, I mean, we're still producing good opportunities. Isak's goal was marginal. Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the
I'm
offside
just going to
goal
change
was...
the internet over, Alex.
Oh, is it you? Okay. I thought I was all right. Yeah,
it's
no,
League, don't worry.
the offside goal was marginal, and we created some chances, but overall, it just, we've been at a point where we've had 3, 4, maybe even 5 players in our team that have been overperforming or playing above their levels for some time.
Mm.
And the issue is when you have 4 or 5 of them sort of revert to type for the day, and you have some of the more senior players have bad days, it's half the team, it's half the 11 all of a sudden aren't firing. And then you have games and performances like that. And it's just, however, it wasn't good enough, though. It definitely wasn't good enough. That was the final straw for me. I was, a lot of people were angry with me for excuses I was making for the team, and I thought they were logical and fair. However, I agree with a lot of other people now. That was my tipping point. That wasn't good enough. I can't make any more excuses. It's Luton. They're shocking. They are absolutely shocking. We gave them their 3rd win of the season, and they were better. And the fact that we got it wasn't sort of technical ability that lost us the game. It was
No.
basic things like fight and drive and winning second balls.
Determination.
Basics. Yeah, it was things like that. So I'm quite happy to take a step back and say, look, that was awful. Not even remotely close to good enough. And there are players in our team, and they have their place in our team, like Almiron, for example, because they are physically strong. They work hard. They never give up. If you start losing those qualities, what are you in the team for? We give people these passes because they've got those additional features and they've got extra bits. But once you lose that, if we lose the physicality from Miggy, there's not really much else. If we lose certain things from Sean, there's not much else. And it's just, and then when you couple that with sort of Trippier's dip in form and things of that nature, it's just a recipe for disaster. A changing goalkeeper as well. I feel like the only player who's looked completely unaffected by all of this is Bruno. I think Bruno is playing out of his skin every single game. I appreciate he missed that nicely worked short corner.
I think his passing was a little bit hit and miss in the Luton game.
I still think he's trying to drag us through games.
Of course he is. Well, he's that kind of player, isn't he?
Yeah.
It was extremely disappointing, and like you said, that there needs to be more from certain players. Were you a little bit surprised at what he did with Miley, bringing him off and put instead of Sean, maybe? Because Miley looked a lot better than Sean, looked a bit more alert. It was a strange one.
I think it was about senior players. I think he wanted more senior pros on the pitch. I can't challenge that. I mean, it didn't work, but I wouldn't. He's made a judgment call based on trying to get some more senior heads on the pitch and just try to make it work. He's brought 2 strikers on. He's changed it before half time. He's tried very hard to try and sort the game out, and it still didn't work. They were brave substitutions. But again, it's as I said, you've got a handful of players who are playing above their levels who are currently now not doing that, and you've got a few of the more like the better players out of form as well.
Yeah, I've seen that mentioned a lot, Alex, that maybe we aren't as good as maybe last season sort of dictated, that maybe that levels were above what we actually are. And that's why we need some sort of we need signings.
I do think that's unfair, though. I think if you suddenly pop Willock, Joe Linton, Harvey Barnes,
different,
Finale,
Well, he's one player, Alex, that we really miss is Joe Willock. Just missing his drive. Yes, we miss Joe Linton's physicality in midfield, no doubt about that. But Joe Willock is a standout player that we have really, really missed. And I can't wait till he's back in the side and fully fit, because he can change a game for us.
Yeah, I want them all back. I think we'll be fine. I mean, I'm quite optimistic about the next few weeks. I think in January we're gonna recruit 2 or 3 players, and we'll get players like Willock, Joe Linton, Harvey Barnes. We'll get all of those back in, which is going to be huge. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, touch wood, all of the things. We'll have 5 or 6 more players available in our matchday squad compared to what we are right now. It'd be great to get players like Anderson back as well, because he's been kind of forgotten about, and he was really, really useful because he could float sort of left wing. He was very nippy in pre-season, chipped in with a few goals, physical striker. There's just so much we're missing. And we need some rotation. So a couple of weeks,
Well,
I think we're going to be a lot better. But we
yes.
need now. So
Speaking of rotation, Alex, tomorrow is probably looking at the fixtures in January. We've got some very, very tough games. This seems to be the game where it is possible to rotate because we're at home. Anthony Gordon and Miggy, for me, Miggy's not playing well, but he's spent as well. Gordon, for me, played injured at Luton. He just didn't seem his normal self. And whether that's just soreness or whether he was carrying something else, he's still got a knock. And it does affect you. And I don't think they were free-flowing. So does he look at tomorrow as a possible opportunity to maybe take Gordon and Miggy out of the firing line for a game, play, Tino in Miggy's place, play Isak on the left? He's got a couple of options there.
No, I think that's too risky. I think it's just too risky. I agree. Miggy's frustrating. But in terms of playing Tino at right wing and maybe experimenting with Isak, I'm not so sure. And I don't think we're going to see much of Isak left Wilson up front purely because of the lack of depth we've got at the moment. There's not really, if we had the option of another player who could come on and be a striker.
Yeah.
The problem is if Gordon sits on the bench, he's then got to come on to replace either the left winger or the striker. He can't replace both. I don't think there's much in rotation options, to be completely honest. I
mean, I don't know whether you watched the commentary on Saturday, Alex, but I thought Isak, when he came on, looked our brightest player, and he actually looked hungry again. He did some very good things.
Well, I mean, he scored. It was just one of those level offsides, wasn't it? So
yeah, it was touch and go, to say the least. But he looked really up for it when he came on. He was coming deep to get the ball. He wanted to be on the ball. He was putting himself about. And I think that's a hell of a good sign for us going into the next few games. If Isak is now just got rid of that little, injury that was hampering him a little bit because he was taken out for those games, and he's just got that little bit of rest that he needed. He's fully fit again. That can only benefit us, because we know, as we saw on Saturday, he gets an opportunity in the box like that. 9 out of 10 times he puts them away. And Callum's doing okay, but I think a fully fit Isak. But then again, I'm not sure that Isak is an out-and-out striker, but that's a debate for another time. It's about putting the right team out tomorrow that is going to beat Nottingham Forest, because Forest are a very weird team, Alex. They'll win games that you don't expect them to. They'll lose games that perhaps you'd expect them to. They go to Fulham, they get thumped. I mean, it's a very strange setup, but of course, a new manager.
Yeah, hang on. Right, so I've got to remember everything there. So it was strikers. Yeah, I agree. The more we see Isak, the more I want him to be a wide forward, because he struggles with his physicality and he gets very isolated. Isak is the kind of player that needs lots of touches of the ball. Isak, in a way, and people are going to hate this, he's very much like Maxi. You need to give him a lot of the ball, a lot of goes at running at players. He needs to get his rhythm. Then he's on fire. Then he's electric. You've got to give him that wind-up period. Yeah. If you just stick Isak up front and give him 10 touches, he really struggles to get into the game. You've got to feed him properly. And Wilson at the moment, I'm really disheartened with the way Wilson's playing. I think his hold-up play has been absolutely atrocious. He doesn't win a single duel against centre-halves. His pace is completely gone. When he tries to dribble at someone, he loses the ball pretty much 100% of the time. The fox in the box is there. He's clinical. He's deadly when he's in the box. But in terms of anything else he gives us, it's nothing at the moment. And it's really, really, it's just so horrible to see, because pre-World Cup, he was such a physical beast. He was a monster. And I don't know. There's no way he's just physically aged 5 years in one. I don't know what's wrong with him. It's bizarre.
Well, that header he missed, Alex, was
frustrating as hell. I know it was close.
It was really shocking. I mean, he's on the 6-yard line. There is nobody marking him. He's got a pick of either corner, and he heads it straight at the keeper. Now, I don't think enough was. If that was Miggy, we'd have hammered him. To be fair to Miggy, and I think Callum's got away with it a little bit. So look, it's going to be it's a tough decision for Eddie tomorrow because results have to start improving away from home, but performances need to start improving as well because the performances, it took a while to get going against Fulham as well. Let's not forget. So I think he might be feeling a little bit hot under the collar, but he said he does anyway. But this is a big month coming up for the manager.
Well, yeah. But I think it doesn't really matter. I think he will get massive credit based on the Champions League, trying to navigate that group and the amount of injuries we've had and the Tonali suspension. Like his shiny new midfield setup was just broken, like straight away. No Anderson, no Willock. Joe Linton's been in and out of the side. Tonali suspended. Everything he'd planned for is just all broken. Barnes coming in to step in instead of Maxi, instantly broken. Like he's not been able to implement half of what he wanted to this season. He's just had to work with what's available. And people could argue that other teams have had the same issue, but again, we've not got the experience of navigating such a big season. This is quite new for everyone. And it's just, I don't think it really matters, to be honest. I think we'll get some additions in January and we'll get players return and it will be fine. We'll get to experiment a bit. We'll get to see some different lineups. We've just got to keep slogging. We've got to maybe even change our style to a point and just grind some results out. Maybe be a bit more direct on occasion because, working the high value opportunity doesn't always work because we've been, sometimes you just get unlucky and it won't go in. We do need to start having a few pot shots, popping a few more crosses in and just trying to get some results maybe in a slightly different way. And to be fair, Eddie did that in the way of bringing Isak on with Wilson in a first half substitution. Eddie recognised the need for that and he went, right, sod this. We need points. 2 strikers, just go on there. Let's go change this. And it didn't work. But, he's well aware that we just need to go back to basics. We need to show a bit more determination and fight. This is what happened after we struggled. When was it? Was it the Fulham game? We had a shocking result. And then I remember it was one game we were playing better and they were doing everything better in terms of basics, like 1-2 passes, better movement, more aggression. We really just need to go back to basics because Forest, despite their really bad run of form and obviously losing the manager, they're still, in my opinion, they're still a really good side. I would put Forest basically at the same level as Palace. I think they've got 5 or 6 really good players in terms of they've got a good spine. With Ibrahim Sangari in midfield and Mangala and Yates is annoying to play against as well. He was really scratty against us at the start. It was at the end of last season. They've got Elanga and Hudson-Odoi and obviously Chris Wood to just stand up there and just be a tree.
Chris Wood, yeah, he'll have a point to prove tomorrow.
They've got a good squad and a good spine, and there's they're in 17th. There's a reason why they sacked their manager because their squad should not be where it is. Because, like I've just said, I reckon it's sort of Palace standard-ish. They should be around mid-table. They should be building. They've got Awoniyi up front, who I think is a vastly underrated forward, but I think he's injured at the moment. And it's not going to be an easy game. I think the only real good advantage here is we're at home. I think if this was away, I'd be really concerned about this.
We've got Jesh Sandhu. Welcome to Members Club, Jesh. Thank you very much for joining. Keith Dites has gifted 10 Toon Review memberships to everybody. So if you've been rewarded with that, well done to you. Thank you so much for that, Keith. That is incredible generosity. Toon Gamer, thank you for your super chat. We seem to be overplaying in the final third recently. I'd go with that, Alex. I mean, we do seem to have a little bit of an issue of maybe overplaying it before getting the crosses in. I mean, obviously we spoke about this before, and you're saying, that's come from the manager, and I think obviously it has. But do you think we're slightly overplaying it?
Yeah, I'm not sure the overplaying's come from the manager. I think it's a fine line. It is. Look, it's a real fine line. Because it goes one of 2 ways. The way it's currently going is, Miggy and Trippier out on the right. Longstaff gets involved. Bruno has a touch. Dink over the top. Few more touches. Oh, the move's broken down. We don't get the shot away. It's been overplayed. But then conversely, someone pulls the trigger too early. Longstaff has a shot which was useless, and you had players spare. And then people conversely throw their toys out the pram that maybe we didn't pass it, we didn't build it up properly. So it's one of those where it looks bad whether you under or overplay the move. It's just a case of you have to read the moment, try and play the right passes to get to work the better shot. And it's a really tricky balance in professional football. It's something that we're not quite doing. And yeah, I would agree. I think even though I'm giving them an excuse, I would say we are slightly overplaying it. Sometimes players are a little bit too scared to pull the trigger and will just try and play another 1-2 that's maybe not necessary. Pepper the goalkeeper, try and get some extra shots on target. Mistakes can be made. Ricochet's got to be on our side at some point.
It would be nice. It would be nice. Now, obviously, we've been questioning Eddie over time, saying, change the tactics, change something as the game goes on. Now, he did that against Luton. Billy F is asking, why did Howe change to a 4-4-2? Because Bruno looked lost after that change.
Because we were 1-0 down.
It clearly wasn't working, and that's why he made the changes he did. And look, we've been very critical of Eddie in the past for not being ruthless. And, that was ruthless. 37 minutes, Miley's off. He changes it. He puts Isak on. Obviously, Lascelles was injured, so he had to come off. But, we have questioned that over time, whether he's ruthless enough to do that. And he did do it. And a lot of people are questioning him. I questioned Miley coming off, but then, you talk about the senior players, and Eddie's got trust in a lot of senior players. So he did try. I just think at 4-4-2, Bruno took a bit of a while to try and get back in the game again, because he did look a bit out of sorts. But they haven't played a lot of 4-4-2, if at all. I can't remember the last time we did play 4-4-2.
It was. I mean, Granny's pointed out there. It wasn't quite a 4-2-3-1. It was a very fluid thing. But Isak obviously. I mean, it occasionally was. They were next to each other up front, and then sometimes Isak could be on the left.
Isak came back to get the ball a lot in midfield, didn't he? So I think that's where people are getting the 4-2-3-1 from. But I think he'll revert back to type tomorrow, Alex. I don't think there's any doubt about that, and go 4-3-3. But it's. I mean, Trippier, for me, I think he did all right at Luton. Trippier came into that game under massive, massive pressure. And I think he passed the test. Trippier didn't do anything wrong for me. In fact, he looked better. His control was good. He was getting forward again. But, Dan Burnett left back surprised me that he started the game. I thought Tino might have started.
I predicted that, didn't I?
Yeah. But obviously tomorrow, Alex, it's going back to type with the centre backs, which I'm very confident of, because obviously Lascelles is out, which means the return of the double act of Botman and Fabian Schär. Yeah,
I mean, I think this is maybe a bit early for graphics, but there is something I wanted to show people graphics wise, just to kind of hit home your point. We can have a look at it. So it's our expected goals. It's the XG for the season. So I was obviously looking at this to highlight the Forest XG being 17th. But look who's cheekily sat there in first.
But the thing is, Alex, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because if it's expected goals.
Well, we've scored 36 and our XG is 36.7. So we're pretty much bang on what we should be. So the issue, I mean, arguably, yes, we've been underscoring in the last few fixtures. There were games early on in the season where we overperformed in our XG. 5-1 against Villa was quite generous based on XG, as was the 8-0 against Sheffield United. So it does, XG always balances out over a long enough period of time. But the reason I'm showing you this is obviously this would suggest we were right up there, but obviously it's defensive frailties and not picking up points because of defensive issues that has caused us to be where we are in the league table at the moment. Not necessarily the scoring. It's basically the reverse of last year, in that we were able to keep clean sheets and it was a consistent back five. This year it's the reverse. We've been a little bit more creative and a bit more aggressive in attack. Obviously, I know it's gone a bit wrong in recent weeks. We all know that, but this is obviously factoring in the whole season so far, so we get more information on it. But yeah, so this is exactly why I'm super happy to see Schär and Botman. Hopefully they start. I don't see why they wouldn't. But to have those two back as centre half pairings, potentially with Burn left back, and even Trippier right back. I know Livramento doesn't deserve to be dropped, but I would rather just go with something a bit more reliable, that's tested and proven, just to try and just keep a clean sheet. Just to keep a clean sheet. We need to start being a bit more rigid, stop making mistakes, and then we can build from there, because we don't necessarily need to be scared of the upcoming fixtures. I mean, you can get rid of that now if you want. Especially like Liverpool and stuff. If we can get some defensive structure back and play with a bit more consistency, I mean, the goals will come. Injured players will come back into the side. Joe Linton started popping in with a few goals, and then he's injured again. So, it's more about defence. So your point exactly. Fabian Schär and Botman coming back, I'm thinking it's going to be massive.
Yeah. No, Billy's. People are asking if Billy bladdered. No, he's not. He's actually his son was only getting to his house for around 6:45 tonight. So we told Billy to have the night off and spend Christmas night with his son. So that's where Billy is. Jan says we just are so slow. Need some faster players in January. That could be down to a few things, though. Jackie's going 3-0 tomorrow with a Wilson hat-trick. Davies' inverted wingers have now been found out. I mean, Dan Byrne mentioned that. I don't know whether you saw his interview, Alex.
I need to go and watch all of that.
After the game, he actually said that he thinks that we've been a little bit found out, which was very interesting comments.
I mean, I've got to be careful what I say here. I don't really know. Look, you can never know what players know in terms of tactics and how knowledgeable they are about stuff. You would imagine in an Eddie Howe side, everybody is expected to know their role inside out. They're all very well drilled. I don't know if it's that Dan Burns' personal opinion. Is that something that's been mentioned within the camp? It's very difficult to tell, because you've got players that just turn up and do as they're told and don't really understand that much about tactics. It is a thing. I don't think we've really got anybody like that, because I don't think we would recruit players like that. I think it's very much players need to understand their role. They need to understand how they fit into the system. That's been spoken about with Miley as well. So I don't think it's that. I think that's an oversimplification from Dan Burn. The whole point in that is to work the opportunity. It's to retain the ball more often and to use, himself as the additional wide option. So maybe he needs to take a look at himself in terms of, there's the inverted winger there. Your job is to actually be there, before 12 and a half seconds as the overlap, so that you create the width if you want to put the cross in. And is Dan Burn supposed to be doing that? Well, he does it. He just overlaps a little bit slower, but he's not as fast.
Carl's made a good point there. And do you think the lack of time on the training ground due to the number of games is affecting our tactical play? Potentially.
We've had a lot of situations where Eddie Howe's come out in press conferences and said that players haven't really trained this week, or they've had one training session this week, and then they'll go straight into a match. So they will sit in all of the pre-match stuff about the opposition breakdown and things that you're supposed to do, but in terms of actual on the training pitch stuff. But to be honest, I think we're still doing a lot of good work in the training pitch, because although it's not working, I love all of our new set piece routines. It's every week it's something new, different, exciting, refreshing, and it's always a nearly goal. It's just fine margins. And it doesn't mean that the set piece was a bad set piece. It's just players missing the target, or I've really liked the variety of set pieces, from corners, short corners, from free kicks. We've done some really interesting stuff recently. It's just not really gone in the back of the net. So
no. Foxy says, with our home form, there's no reason why we shouldn't continue to play the same way. But away from home, Eddie might need to go back to basics and work on what got us top 4, defensive clean sheets. Well, with the return of the two centre backs, we may have a chance with that. Oh God, you know what? StreamYard's doing that jumping thing where it goes through all the comments again. Liam says, apologies, but Forest will turn up tomorrow. I'm feeling another hit and miss performance. King Huddle says, Wilson and Isak have 14 league goals between them, but I presume the vast majority are at home. Baz Down Under says Trippier is the one conceding. NUFC Ollie says, legends, you both doing a show today. Thank you very much. Alessandro says, Balotelli on a transfer for January, if it's possible, could provide a spark. I know it's random, but he is exactly what Newcastle fans want. A guy with balls to shoot from outside the 18.
I mean, the Italian knows what the Newcastle fans want. Okay.
Listen, I don't know. To be honest, I don't think I'd be too happy if Balotelli was our number one target in January. I think there's much better players out there than Balotelli now. I think he's been and gone. He's had his time, and his time's done for me. Irani Granny says, we didn't know how to break down the five at the back. They were way more intense. Well, Billy's mentioned that before, hasn't he, Alex, about the low block and how we, even last season, struggled to cope with it. And Luton had that low block. But again, I just thought they wanted the game much more than us. And it comes to determination tomorrow, a bit of passion from the players. We need to see that back again because it was clear that Luton wanted that game a lot more than we did. Yeah,
they absolutely did. They fought a lot harder. Physically, they were winning duels a lot more. They just, first to every second ball, and to be completely honest, they deserve the points, and that hurts to say, but they were better in every area of the pitch. They had a few dangerous counter attacks in the game as well. I mean, it could have been an even worse scoreline, to be honest. We weren't careful enough, and we didn't want it enough.
Yeah.
You can't just turn up and expect it.
Absolutely. Susan's banned antacid by accident, so I'm going to try and rescue him. Alex, while you're doing that, can you do the graphics, and then I'll try and rescue antacid from the banned list so he can get back in and take part. There you go, mate.
Right. So let's have a look at FOTMob's predicted lineup for tomorrow. So what have we got changed here? I mean, they don't think Dan Burn's going to start from a FOTMob perspective. They think it's going to be Livramento. As we've just mentioned, Botman and Cher coming back in as the centre-half partnership. Longstaff, Bruno and Miley in midfield. And then they think it's going to be Gordon, Isak, Mickey. So minimal changes, staying with a 4-3-3. I don't think there's much wrong with this. I think the only debatable one is Burn or Livramento as a left-back. I don't know what else we really could do. Unless we do what Paul mentioned at the beginning of the show, which is throw Livramento out on the right wing and really mix things up. Unless he wants to somehow bring Lewis Hall into the starting lineup. There's been a few recent interviews about that. In terms of Forest, so Wood up front with Awoniyi being injured, but a solid side that's just not been performing very well of late. Bowley's suspended, so it's going to be Murillo and Niakate as the centre-halves, with Williams and Toffolo as the full-backs. A decent centre midfield pairing of Yates and Mangala, very physical. Yates has always been very frustrating against us. He's very similar, very aggressive in the tackle. Likes getting the crowd going as well. Hopefully that won't be an issue because it's at home. And then Gibbs White, to be honest, you could look at this like a 4-3-3 as well, because Gibbs White is very much capable of linking in as a midfielder, but he can be a wide forward. He's a 10, very creative, very, very solid. So I'm a little bit scared of this. I don't know about Origi on that right-hand side. That's a bit of a funny one. But yeah, we've got to be careful because they've got some pace up front. They've got some technical ability in Gibbs White. They can create. There can be a threat in the box, especially with Wood. I know we didn't do the business for us, but you've still got to be respectful of it. That they're a reasonably solid side who are underperforming at the moment, and they'll want to try and get something. And they can hurt us in a few different ways. Like I said, set pieces, counter attacks. Elanga's very fast. I'm pretty sure they've got Hudson-Odoi who could come on as well. Of course, Nuno came in and is the new manager. Who is in the back end of their squad that's actually available right now? If we scroll down, so I think Aurier is injured. So in terms of attackers, yeah, Hudson-Odoi. I don't know if he's available. I think he's available. So Hudson-Odoi could be an option. Awoniyi is obviously injured, like we said. Andre Santos, although I think Chelsea are getting a bit annoyed that they're not playing him. He's the guy that we've done a few transfer shows on that unfortunately went to Chelsea and got loaned out. Ibrahim Sangare, of course, amazing from PSV. They got him from PSV. I'm very surprised he went to Forest. He's a cracking midfielder as well. So they've got options. They've got some variety in there. Statistics for them for the season. They've got 3 clean sheets. Oh, there you go. There's a joint first again for clean sheets. God, it's so annoying where we are in the table because we've got some interesting stats here.
That's weird to think that we're joint with Arsenal for clean sheets. Given
We're top for XG and we're top for clean sheets and we're 7th. It's ridiculous. So yeah, 17th in the table with a FOTMOB rating of 17th. So goals per match 1.1 in 15th, goals conceded 1.8 in 16th. So they're, data wise, they are where they should be in the table. They are massively underperforming. I was a little bit shocked to see this. I thought they retained the ball a bit more than this, but obviously not. 39.2% average possession, 18th in the league for that. So I would expect to see us have pretty much all of the ball tomorrow. I'd be frustrated if we don't. And Luton had a lot more of the ball than I was expecting. But again, we're at home. We need a bounce back. So I would expect us to have pretty much all of the ball tomorrow. Big chances. They're right the way down in the league. Big chances missed. Right, shots on target. 3 shots on target per 90. Again, we mocked Luton for this, that we know some players who have roughly that many shots on target per game. That's their entire team. So they are where they should be based on data as well. Have we got anything that stands out? They don't get very many corners, penalties. Only had 1 penalty awarded all season. Possession 1 in the final third per match, 3. Awesome. They do not press. Yeah. There is no pressing there. Obviously, Chris Wood leads the line. So, yeah, it is what it is.
Well,
second in the league for clearances.
Exactly pressing striker, is he?
No. Should we have a look at SofaScore?
Absolutely.
So recent form is absolutely shocking. This is why they had a manager change. They're massively underperforming. And again, with the squad that they've got, with the investment, he's had a bit of investment. It wasn't good enough. And I know they love Steve Cooper, and he's a decent manager, but they were at danger of slipping through the trap door unless they made a change. And it's a shame he had to go. I'm not sure Nuno was necessarily the right replacement, but we shall see. So not got a win since that 2-0 win over Villa, which is very, very impressive. And I'll show you the actual lineup they used in that game. So in my opinion, a much better 11 that they've gone with, because I think Awani is a much better centre forward. They've got Sangari in the midfield and Aina, who I think used to be on Chelsea's books back in the day. So a slightly different side. We won't see anything like this tomorrow. It'll be a little bit different. And they played very well, and they managed to shut Villa out and beat him 2-0, which is rather impressive. But then this torrid run of form, conceding a lot of goals as well. Again, 5-0 against Fulham. They managed to dig in and get a result away against Wolves. They lost 2-0 to Tottenham at home, despite Spurs having a player sent off. And then, obviously, most recently lost to Bournemouth 3-2 with that Solanke hat-trick, which I think I've got up here. Yes, I have, with Solanke playing out of his skin at the moment. So this was the last lineup they used. So tomorrow is very likely to be this, except obviously Bowley suspended. So it will be very, very similar to this, I would imagine. With Chris Wood scoring in the game and getting an 8.9. Who would have thought? Average positions.
SofaScore are very generous with very stingy with their ratings, Alex. So to get an 8.9, Jesus.
So this is how they kind of sat in. What number is Chris Wood? 11. So Chris was there. 27 is Origi. So Origi was kind of sitting out wide right, average position wise, and then you've got them playing. Interesting, strange. Must have been down to Vernier and Ryan Christie being a little rat, because he's quite quick, isn't he? So
yeah, they are. Yeah,
it'll be an interesting one. Hang on, let's go back to the predicted lineup. Where's the predicted lineup, guys? It is there. There we go. I don't know. I think you were busy when we first put this on screen, but this is the predicted team sheet for both sides on FOTMOB.
So, it's interesting that they've got Livramento left back there and not Dan Burn, isn't it? I mean,
yeah. So that was what I pointed the same thing out. That's probably the most contentious thing, is who's going to be left back.
But I think he's got to play Livramento tomorrow. Dan Burn, he came in for Luton, but I think Livramento had played a lot of games, hadn't he? And I think he's used that game as more of a rest for Livramento, because he didn't expect what would happen against Luton Town. It seemed like the obvious game where we could get a rest for Tino Livramento as well, because he's played right back, he's played left back, he's covered a lot of positions, but has done nothing to deserve getting dropped. So I think if he doesn't play tomorrow, I will ask questions of Eddie Howe, because I don't think Dan Burn should start.
You've also got to think about the opposition. So the speed is on this side with Alanga. Obviously, Origi's not I mean, he's never, unless he suddenly turned into an Olympic sprinter. I don't remember Origi being particularly athletic in the speed area. He's obviously a bit of a physical beast, but having Chris Wood and Origi running at Burn, I don't want to jinx anything, but I wouldn't be too concerned about that. I would back Dan Burn physically to win those battles and to be fine. So I don't think we necessarily need we need somebody to cover that. If Elanga was out on the right hand side, yeah, maybe.
No, but no, but what I'm saying is, Liveramento's done nothing wrong to be left out of the side, Alex. That regardless who's on that side, I think Liveramento's proved to everybody how good of a player is and how much he deserves to be in the side. I think it'd be very harsh if he's left out again.
Devil's advocate, Dan Burn scored recently and is one of the senior players in the team.
Yeah, but sometimes we have to look different to senior players in the team, though, Alex. So you've got to go with the best players available. I think Tino's proved he is one of the best players available.
I think I would probably go with Tino if I had to make the decision, but I think Eddie would possibly go with Burn.
I'd be disappointed if he does. I mean, nothing against Dan Burn. I just think that if you're asking a player to come in and prove your worth, he's done exactly that, Tino Livramento, and I think it would be extremely harsh to leave him out, because I think he's done exactly what we've wanted him to do, if not more. He's been absolutely brilliant for us.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few people in the chat talking about the whole drop Miggy and put Tino as the right winger. I mean,
well,
I guess you could, because then you've still got Lewis Hall as a substitution option. So I just don't think he's going to do that. He trialled it in a cup game, but I think we're far too much we're not into the business end of the season, but I feel like we're far too into the season to try that kind of experiment, especially in a home game with the run of form.
Yeah. And Acid, I'm not sure whether you were a member before you got timed out there before by accident. If you weren't, or you were, sorry, I think you'll need to go and renew it, mate, because it's not showing you as a member anymore, and I can't remember if you were or you weren't. So if you can just check that for me. Foxy says the red card for Bowley was embarrassing. The ref cost them the game. Yeah, I've seen that. It was shocking, to be honest. It was shocking. Scarlett is here. She's a Nottingham Forest fan. Even with your injuries, you're going to walk this. The club's a mess. Fans are split. Dressing room apparently also. And now our home ground atmosphere has gone.
See, I think they've got all the right ingredients. I think they've got a good spine. I like Forest. I think they've got a good team. There's a reasonable squad balance. I like the look of the squad a lot more than I did last season, and I think they should be far higher up the table. And they've got players that concern me. Like if Elanga just goes on a bit of a mad run, Gibbs White again is very creative. We've got to be switched on. This is a game we can lose. We're switched. If we don't switch on, they've got players with that quality. Luton don't. We shouldn't have lost to Luton. That was a disgrace. However, this is different. Forest have got a lot higher quality, and they've got players that can hurt us.
Well, Julie J's mentioned there that they could actually have a new manager bounce. I think it's not.
Well, Nuno's not really bounced anything wherever he's been recently. So
I thought he did all right at Wolves. Nuno, I just think.
Yeah, but that was
the Tottenham.
I meant since Wolves, obviously. Since Wolves, every position he's gone into has really not worked at all.
Scarlett's back again. Says Elanga and Wood are our only hopes of goals. MGW is maybe Murillo are the only ones who can play. We are a joke, I'm afraid. That was Nuno's first game, even trying their hardest. Wow. I mean, I'm interested to know why, Scarlett, you're saying the fans are split. Is that because some didn't want Cooper sacked? I know in his final game, he got a hell of an ovation from the crowd. So it's interesting to see whether that's the reason that he's he split the fans. But given that Alex, it's a team coming to St James's Park who are in a bit of a pickle at the minute.
I mean, it's probably the best time for us to play them. In recent weeks, every time we've had to play somebody, it's been the other way around, where it's been better for the other team to play us at that period of time. Whereas currently, I think if you were to give us a pick of anyone in the league right now, I'd take Sheffield United or Forest, because I think those are probably the two most winnable games at the moment, or Luton at home, obviously. And I still think, I'm still going to say that regardless of what happened the other day. I think that was just a ridiculous performance. But they would be in that bracket of sort of the 3 or 4 teams you'd pick. If you're like, right, who would you pick? Anybody in the league? We need a win tomorrow at home. Forest are in that conversation because of the way that they're playing at the moment. They shouldn't be. They should be a lot higher up, in my opinion, but we'll see.
Scarlett back again and said, most of us fans are fuming. It's not a happy place. The bloke who got us here just got sacked.
Cooper.
Yeah. John says, didn't forget Chris Wood will run away from a blazing performance from our lads. It was the deadest atmosphere in years against Bournemouth. Everyone was down. Bournemouth outsang us. Foxy says, Nuno won the Saudi League last season, I'm sure. He's a boring manager, but always sets up his team pretty well defensively. Stotty says, hope you have a lovely Christmas. Now it's nearly Happy New Year. Time runs on and runs on and runs on.
It's the 25th.
Well, yes, but a week today is 2024, Alex, and of course the opening of the transfer window. So only 7 days away. Rabbit Non says they'll bounce as good as a snowball with him. Oh dear. Roy says tomorrow is a must win, and I think the lads will do it. 3-0. Andy says I'd rather rest Tino for Burn for this one. Looking forward, at least maybe get Burn into better match shape. Yeah, I can understand that. Robert says, sorry, Alex, we will not switch on. We are playing shite and we never stood up. We are always overplayed in the last 2 games.
Oh, sorry, Robert. Okay, we'll just end the show. We're going to lose. Robert doesn't believe in us.
Well, Alex, to be fair, there was many people predicted. I mean, I was quite surprised when we did the Face the Lads show last Friday, how many people came on and were predicting either a draw or a loss. They had a very, very bad feeling about it, and it turned out to be true.
I mean, the home form is a bit different, isn't it? So, and off the back of that result, there's got to be a reaction. There has to be a reaction. I don't see us putting in 2 equally poor performances like that in a row.
I'll be amazed if we play as badly as that. Really, I mean, look, fatigue, I don't think we'll come into this one because I think, we're at home and, getting that crowd behind us, we never seem to, which is a very interesting thing, isn't it? We never seem to complain about fatigue when we play at home. It's just the way that the fatigue gets mentioned, but you do get that adrenaline rush. You do get that extra spring in your step at home with the home crowd. And that's why I think, they'll play another big part tomorrow, Alex.
Yeah, we need them because we need the extra support. The players are struggling away from home at the moment. They're getting rattled by away crowds. Well, it's not that they're getting rattled necessarily. It's that the opposition fans are obviously giving their players an extra 5% and they're winning some duels that they wouldn't always win. And it's something that we were so good at last year and for the beginning of the season. And we've just got to make sure that, again, the fans are amazing. And in recent weeks, they've been really, really good, the Newcastle fans at home. So we just need to make sure we continue that.
Foggy Crack, thank you very much for that comment. Very kind of you, my man. Niall says there was supposed to be a reaction to Kenilworth Road, and look what happened. Yeah. Look, I agree, Alex. I think it is a real big game tomorrow to just show everybody that the confidence is still there. They haven't dropped their heads. They've just had a couple of painful results. Obviously the Carabao Cup was painful. It wasn't the greatest performance in the world either. Neither was Luton. So even though we're going home tomorrow, having said that, if you look at the lunchtime kickoffs we've played in, Alex, I don't think we've done very well in them this season.
I don't really read too much into that. I mean, it can have an effect, but it is one of the things in football that never really gets mentioned enough is playing at 12:30 certain weeks, but then playing at 8 p.m. in other weeks. It is a huge disparity of when your body's meant to kick in and play at peak level for nearly 2 hours. But I can already hear people typing that that's ridiculous. They get paid lots of money. They should just be able to do it anyway. But it's not how it works. But I would agree with the traditionalists. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you play at 12:30 or 8 o'clock. I understand that there are slight differences in people's sort of biology, but At this level, no, you should just be doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Ronald says, "Howie, was it me? Was it just me who saw that Eddie Howe seemed annoyed at his press conference yesterday with the Luton performance?"
I'm not surprised.
Well, would you have been there, Ronald? I mean, Eddie doesn't give a lot away, does he? But yesterday, he did. He did seem to be very agitated by it, and rightly so. The lads, listen, we said this, me and Billy said this on Saturday as well. You can talk about the manager all you want, but the players let Eddie Howe down as well on Saturday. Let's be honest. They just didn't. The performance was ranked bad. And, again, I'll say it. Eddie tried something different. He tried to change it. He realized 37 minutes, right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to make a change. He tries, and the players let him down. There were certain players that just didn't turn up.
Sorry, rabbiting on the comment there is really good. That's a good one.
They looked exhausted at Luton, too tight to give a shit. Wow. Okay.
That's a new one.
Yeah, I've never heard that before. Ryan says, I actually agree with that. It's just like a sheep schedule. Your body, sheep. Where the hell did I get sheep from? Just like a sleep schedule, your body is used to a routine.
I mean, it is a real thing. They did. I've read a book about sleep schedule, and it was the guy. It was written by the guy who originally went in to do Manchester United's sleep stuff when Alex Ferguson recruited him, and they got them all on special sleep schedules the back end of the 90s and started teaching the players about sleep because they were just trying to squeeze every metric they could out of the players. And it was very interesting. They did go into detail about that, and they used them at the top end of the game.
I'm quietly confident tomorrow. I have to say, I am quietly confident, and I know I went for a big win against Luton, but
so did I.
I wasn't as enthusiastic as you were, Alex, about the result. I have to say, I was always a little bit, but I did think we'd go out there and get an early goal, and we'd end up thumping them. And to be honest,
I think we in all honesty, I know it's ifs and buts, but I do think if that offside goal stood, I think we were turning it up. We were definitely turning it up, and it's just frustrated that was disallowed.
Alex,
but
I think Callum puts that header away. We're in front. The game, it's fine margins, isn't it? Yeah. Foxy says, question, where do we need to finish end of the season minimum for Howe to still be in a job next season? I still back him even if we finish outside of European places, but seems I might be in the minority with that.
I mean, my minimum expectation for this season was 8th. Based on the European campaign and unforeseen things like bad injury crisis. Unfortunately, it seems like when we talked about this at the beginning of the year, we talked about maybe the best case scenario and the worst case scenario. And it looks like we've hit the worst case scenario. We had the hardest Champions League group. We've had probably the worst injury record we could have had up to this point this season. Yeah. And we're still well in there. We're still fine. So I would say 8th is probably a minimum. I think there's going to be question marks if it starts to go to sort of 10th or 11th. But I would say top 8, considering everything is done, and rediscover some form, should be fine.
I fear for him this month, though. January, Alex. I think we've got some big games because I think if we get turned over by the likes of Liverpool and Man City convincingly, and we don't show up, I think the pressure will be on him a little bit.
I disagree. I think he'll be fine. I think the owners look at the situation with the injuries and the rebuild of the squad. They understand where we are in the project, who's been injured as well, in the context of Tonali, which wasn't his fault. And you do feel like without that, we wouldn't be where we are right now in terms of in a negative way.
What about the Sunderland game, though, Alex? Do you still feel that maybe if we lost to
Sunderland... It's new territory for the owners, though. They don't really have the history of this. They don't know. They don't know how big the game is. They don't. People tell them how big it is. They won't understand it until they've lived through a derby. They've not done it yet.
Well, I guess we'll have to see. But I do think he'll be feeling his collar a little bit if things don't go right in January. I think it's a big month for the football club. But again, no Newcastle United, get these players back fit again. Listen, we know when we've got a full squad, we can give everybody a game. We've seen it throughout I just think we need some key players back. I think Joe Willock is a huge miss. We really need him back. Obviously, Harvey Barnes, Joe Linton. He could be back tomorrow, actually. But
it's funny when we don't have him. Honestly, the certain games where we're missing physicality is when we're missing Joe Linton.
Yeah. Kenny said, I heard Sunderland fans are shouting sack the manager after one game. Did you see how many were at the Stadium of Light the other day on Saturday? It was embarrassing.
Oh, did you see Coventry's tweet?
No.
Coventry, when they beat them, they put Stadium of Light work. They tweeted it straight after the win. It was great.
Wow. But yeah, it was terrible. It was a terrible crowd. We questioned that, actually. Me and Billy spoke about it last week. I think it's a terrible appointment for them, but I don't care. I really don't. But there you go. Right, what's your predicted lineup tomorrow then, Alex?
I'm going to go with Dubravka, Trippier at right back, Fabian Schär and Botman, the old duo, to be back as the centre halves. I think he's going to start Dan Burn at left back, and then it will be Bruno at the base of midfield with Longstaff and Miley. And then it will be a front three of Gordon, Isak, and Miggy. I don't think Wilson deserves a start after the way he's playing at the moment at all.
Interesting. Well, I'm going to throw a little spanner in here, Alex, because I think Dubravka will start. I'm going with Trippier at right back. I'm going Livramento at left back. Obviously, Botman and Schär centre backs. Midfield. I mean, look, I think it'll be midfield of Bruno, Miley, and Longstaff tomorrow. But the front three is where I think we'll see a change. I think Isak's going to start left, Wilson in the middle, and Gordon on the right. I think he's got to take Miggy out. I think he's got to take him out the firing line for a bit. But he will look. He'll throw a spanner in there somewhere. We always see something in that team lineup that says, "Wow, we weren't expecting him to play the same 11, or we weren't expecting such and such to come in." Roy thinks it's going to be the same lineup as you've just predicted, Alex. But again, we will see come 11:30 in the morning. And don't forget, before we give you our predictions, me and Billy will be back tomorrow at midday with Matchday Live, and then of course commentary from 12:30. And are we getting some analysis at halftime, Alex, from yourself?
I don't see why not. It very depends on family and where I am, though. I will take my laptop with me. No
problem. But we will be on air from 12 o'clock. Of course, team news and build-up, followed by full commentary of the game from 12:30 kickoff. And so,
can I just interrupt you? Because everyone's talking about Joe Linton.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, if
it's a hamstring, right? So,
well, yeah. But look, if Joe Linton's fit and he plays, then it's Miley that sits out. I think you play a Longstaff, Joe Linton, Bruno. So, that would be the only change I'd make if Joe Linton was fit. So, we will have to see. Right. Get your predictions in the chat, guys. What are you going for tomorrow, Alex?
I am going to trust the back four and back five and go for a clean sheet. I don't think we'll concede. And I think we'll score a couple. I'm going to go for a cheeky 2-0.
Interesting. I'm going for a cheeky 3-0. So I do think we'll keep a clean sheet tomorrow. Like that Forest fan earlier said, I think the kind of all over the place at the minute, which will benefit us because we need to pick up and we need to get that confidence flowing again. And as the chat seemed to be very, very confident as well. By the way, guys, if you haven't seen the little Christmas video that I put up earlier on today of me, Billy, and Alex having a little bit of a Christmas dance, go and have a look at it. It's only about 20 odd seconds long, but it just brings a bit of Christmas cheer to you all. So if you haven't seen that, and there's a little bit of Daisy at the end with a big moo as well. So Daisy, if you don't know, if you've recently subscribed, Daisy the cow is the channel mascot. So we don't just stick a cow in there for no particular reason. Daisy has been popular on the channel for quite some time now. But there you go, guys. That is the preview done and dusted. We will let you go back to your Christmas food and your merriment and have a drink on us. and enjoy it. Enjoy the rest of your day, because tomorrow it starts all over again for Newcastle United as we take on Nottingham Forest. Thank you for your super chats and memberships tonight, guys. Mods, thank you very much for taking time out to mod the show tonight. Alex, thank you for joining me, and thank you to everybody. Over 750 watching on a Christmas Day show, which is damn impressive. Thank you so much for everybody for joining in. We will see you, if you're not at the game, we will see you here tomorrow, me and Billy, at midday for Match Day Live. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Christmas Day, guys. Good night.
Away, the lads and lasses.
Come back and check out the